The poppy stands tall with bended head, the perfect personification of honouring our dead. Every year, one of the most iconic flowers is seen and respected across this nation, and it's down to the work of the Royal British Legion. Today, I'm honoured and humbled to mark the contributions of the RBL to this country in Parliament. And looking on Hansard for the last time the Royal British Legion was a topic for debate, you have to scroll back to 2013. So it's a pleasure to bring this debate to the House now for the 80th anniversary of VE Day, just around the corner. Now, in this speech, I want to talk about the role of the RBL nationally, but more so, I want to reflect on my local branch and my constituency, as telling their story and what they do exemplifies and typifies what is happening up and down the nation to support our veterans and influence our nation's heads and hearts. It was Thornton Wilder who said, "The greatest tribute to the dead is not grief, but gratitude." And the RBL embodies that sentiment perfectly. At this point, I must declare an interest. I have one of the greatest privileges to be, in fact, the president of the Hinckley branch of the Royal British Legion. Yeah. This is particularly fitting as I took it up in 2023, which was the centenary of Hinckley and District's Royal British Legion formation back in 1923. And who was the first president in 1923? It was then the Conservative and Unionist Party member for Bosworth, my predecessor but three, Major Thomas Guy Paget. In 2023, I raised the RBL and the work of local volunteers around Remembrance Sunday in the Chamber and highlighted the particular work of Elaine Ward, who received a medal from the RBL to commemorate her 5 decades of service for fundraising for the Popular Appeal. And I asked the Leader of the House back then if we could have a debate on the volunteers who support the RBL. Well, it's taken some time, but I'm pleased to say we finally secured that debate here today. Now, nationally, I know members here today will be aware of the fantastic contributions the RBL makes to all of our communities, but it would be remiss of me not to talk about some of the great work and the history behind it. The Royal British Legion is the largest armed forces charity in the UK. It was formed in May 1921 to care for those who were suffering from service during the First World War and brought together 4 national organisations of ex-servicemen. Of those who came back from the First World War, 1.75 million suffered some form of disability, and half of those were permanently disabled. Therefore, the Legion had important work to do right from its beginnings. In 1921, the first ever Poppy Appeal was held and raised over £106,000. And it's a proud tradition of ours that this carries on 100 years further in. In 1971, the Queen declared the organisation would be granted royal status and become the Royal British Legion, and the charity now has 180,000 members and 110,000 volunteers. In the past year alone, the RBL has awarded over £18 million worth in grant, helping thousands of veterans and families through the cost of living crisis. They've provided expert financial guidance, legal representation and essential aid during hardship, securing £39 million in war pension awards. But beyond financial support, the RBL is a lifeline for well-being. The Battleback Centre in Shropshire has empowered hundreds of veterans through recovery programmes, while their 6 care homes, including special dementia services, ensure dignity and comfort for those who have served. Community is at the heart of their mission. Whether it's through independent living services, telephone buddies for the lonely, or the 96 global branches supporting service personnel worldwide, the RBL is always there. Their unwavering commitment reminds us we owe our veterans more than gratitude, we owe them action. Possibly the greatest action the RBL facilitate is that of a nation remembering. Remembrance is the active process of keeping the past alive in our present. This is so important now more than ever that we continue to educate the next generation about the First and Second World Wars and the incredible sacrifices made by so many to ensure our freedoms today. Why? As the last surviving veterans of the Second World War becoming fewer and fewer, obviously it was only a few weeks ago the last surviving Battle of Britain pilot, John Paddy Hemingway, passed away. We must not let that knowledge of the impact of war fade away. We must remind future generations, as the most famous quote says, lest we forget. Through the Royal... Of course.
Thank the honourable member for giving way and congratulate him on securing the debate. Just on the issue that he's touching on now, would he agree with me that it is imperative at this stage, as that generation is dying off, unfortunately, that the younger generation, particularly in schools, are told of that immense sacrifice that they made and the freedoms that we all owe for people like those?
The honourable member is absolutely spot on. It's pivotal to making sure that story is continued all the way through, not only in our nation, but across the world as well. And it leads me nicely onto my point, because through the Royal British Legion Education Programme, bringing stories from the Second World War into classrooms with educational resources and digital capsules of VE Day stories under creation, the RBL is honouring the sacrifices of those before us while ensuring their legacy shapes our future today. Of course, it's not just world wars that we need to continue to remember, but also more recent conflicts: Korea, Falklands, Northern Ireland, Bosnia and Kosovo, and the Gulf deployments in places like Iraq and, of course, Afghanistan. Nationally, the RBL's impact is undeniable, distinct, poignant, respectful, and powerful. But an organisation is only as strong as the sum of its parts, so I turn to the Royal British Legion branches in Hinckley and Bosworth, and I'm privileged to have the following branches in my constituency: Barwell Nell Shilton, Burbage, Market Bosworth, Ashby de la Zouch, and Ibstock. The Hinckley branch is branch number 96, that being the 96th Legion ever to be raised since the British Legion formed in 1921. And I know the branch is continually active and proactive today and is managed by some fantastic volunteers, not least Chairman Lloyd Bagshaw, who's actually sat in the public gallery today. Yeah. He's ably supported by Lee Bushell, the Vice Chair, Mick Nolan, the Treasurer, Keir Brown, the Secretary, Ian Walker and Troy Phillips, who are both standard bearers, Dave England, the Parade Marshal, Lou Stooks, Deputy Parade Marshal, and the aforementioned Elaine Ward as the Poppy Appeal organiser. Now, the Hinckley branch has organised numerous public events to commemorate key anniversaries from the Falklands, Korea and D-Day. A key focus of their three-year plan is tackling social isolation, which affects veterans of all ages and is often linked to mental health concerns. Their initiatives include visiting care homes with accessible activities, participation in veteran coffee mornings and breakfasts, teaching in schools, providing support to bereaved families. And families may request their standard bearers to attend services and pay homage to the fallen and past veterans. I can only imagine what this must mean to the families affected, and it's a powerful demonstration of the community spirit amongst the armed forces for those families. Fundraising remains vital, and their popular appeal consistently raises over £40,000 annually, a significant total that shows the perpetual gratitude and benevolent support of the district's community. In summing up the contributions of my local RBL branch, I'd like to quote Lloyd's words. The fundamental keystone to the foundation of these successfuls falls at the feet of the small cohort of passionate volunteers that assist the branch in all its activities. Primarily during the Poppy Appeal period each year, many of those volunteers fundraise are not even Legion members. They merely have a desire and a wish to support the appeal. Without such support and enthusiasm from the community, the branch and indeed the Legion as an organisation could not survive. The breadth of my gratitude and sincere thanks of those men and women have no limit. In speaking to Lloyd, he did actually ask me to single out one particular member, Mr. Ian Walker, who he describes as having a passion and commitment to the branch that goes above and beyond. Therefore, I'd like to take this opportunity to do exactly that. Now, Chair, it's said that the superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions, and none more so than the current chairman of Hinckley branch, Lloyd Bagshaw. Other members of the branch tell me, typically of Lloyd, he has admitted what all considered to be a primary nomination himself. You see, several years ago, the branch was facing an uncertain future. Membership had dwindled, activities were scarce, and survival was in doubt. Then 7 years ago, Lloyd joined and saw not the challenges, but potential. Without hesitation, he took action. With over 40 years of service in the Royal British Legion, Lloyd was elected chairman unopposed, a testament to the trust placed in him. From day one, he worked tirelessly to restore connections, rebuild relationships, and revitalise the branch. His efforts strengthened ties with the Royal Navy Association, St Mary's Church, and the local council, creating a support network that transformed the organisation. Today, the branch is thriving. Events are planned, awareness is high, and the community presence is firmly established, all thanks to Lloyd's leadership. His dedication even uncovered a forgotten milestone, the branch's centenary, in 2023. But most telling of all, membership has more than doubled under his stewardship, now proudly standing at 87. In the words of one branch member, simply put, we're all here today due to his hard work, selflessness, commitment and enthusiasm. Now finally turning to the...
Give way on that point. I thank the honourable member for giving way and for securing this debate. And he's absolutely right that, that branches are the heart of the Royal British Legion, but so are the clubs. I wonder whether he'd agree with me that given a number of clubs in my constituency, especially the Hindhead Club in Beacon Hill, is under significant financial pressure due to increasing costs, not least, I'm afraid, because the Royal British Legion is the landlord and is trying to put up their rent. Would he agree with me that it would be great if the Royal British Legion nationally and the government can come together to preserve the clubs as well as the branches?
Well, thank you. And I think it's this service and contribution that happens in the community that's really important. And it's a role that an MP can play, and he's doubtfully doing that, to pull everyone together to have these discussions to see that a solution can be found. Because at the end of the day, it is that veteran support that we all crave in our constituencies. And I'm pleased to see him here championing his club today. Turning to the national future and support for our veterans, I was pleased and proud that the last government's support for veterans, and as a brief overview, the Office for Veterans Affairs was set up in 2019 and the former Prime Minister appointed a Minister for Veterans Affairs into his cabinet to report to him directly with the aim of taking the challenges faced directly by our nation's veterans. Further work by the previous government included a Veterans Strategy Action Plan, Trauma Network and Health Innovation Fund. Therefore, it would be great to hear from the Minister today what steps the current government is taking to build on the progress made by the previous government and support the Legion's current priorities, namely, number one, strengthening the Armed Forces Covenant duty to include UK and devolved governments and cover all policy matters. Number two, ensuring all public bodies are asking individuals where they are immediately family members have served in armed forces. Number three, ensuring the military compensation is never treated as an income source by means test for welfare benefit. Number four, introducing a national protocol to provide consistent access to public services for armed forces, families and increased SEND support for service children. And number five, removing barriers for families of non-UK service personnel to stay in the UK, waiving fees for indefinite leave to remain and the minimum income requirement. Perhaps the Minister could provide some reflections on these issues as the RBL have raised them specifically. Now, Sir Jeremy, time is short, this speech is long, and in trying to close this debate, I thought it apt simply to reflect on what happens on the 11th day, on the 11th month, and the 11th hour, and say, there are times when simply no words can do justice. Silence is the only response that speaks the loudest. Felt, but not forgotten. Yeah.